welcome to another episode of the most famous person I barely met, the podcast that is taking very small parts of the world by storm. I don't know yet where, but they are. But I'm very, very excited about the guest today. He's my friend, my former compatriot on the basketball court. He's a really smart guy, a nice guy. He does a lot of things I like. He writes, he's a food, culture, wine writer, event planner. He does all kinds of things. He's got the best social media, and he's got an unbelievable lefty jump shot, hook shot from distance or mid range. And he's a nice guy, and he's got a flowered shirt on for this. So Hank Zona, welcome.
Hello, John. Hello, old friend.
Well,
Thanks
and
for
I
having
am
me.
old. I am old. I am
Well,
old.
I'm your older friend then, so there you
Well,
go.
I consider you ageless, Hank. Ageless. Because when I met you, you looked the same. You look the same.
I
No,
don't.
no. Hank is a very good looking man. Hank, where are you right now?
I am in Maplewood, New Jersey, in my home where I've lived for 33 years.
33 years. 33
Yeah.
years. So you moved in when you were 5. What a
Yes,
great
yes,
story.
yes, yes, yes. In fact, after our time when we were both in Hoboken, where we met.
Hoboken, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Tell people who might know, where's Maplewood? What's up? Because I know you're actually big in the community there.
Yep, I'm a firm believer that there's a big difference between living in a town and being a part of a community.
Uh-huh.
So to be a part of a community means you do stuff in it. And so Maplewood is in Essex County, New Jersey. We're about half an hour from Penn Station by train. We're anywhere from a half hour to 2 hours from Midtown by car, depending on the time of day and time of year. I am somewhere in between Newark Airport, the city of Newark, and the Short Hills Mall. So, yeah.
And for those who don't know, the Short Hills Mall, that's some mall. That's a little posh mall, the Short Hills.
I don't even, they don't even allow me in there actually.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, there's a sign outside with my face on there. So,
yeah, I don't pass the credit check.
I sell mock-up Louis Vuitton bags near the mall.
That's,
So you're right in the middle of everything. You're right in the
yeah,
middle.
it's great living here because it's actually easy to get around. I can get to all points in New Jersey, and I write a lot about what goes on in New Jersey from a food and drink and culture standpoint. It's easy to get into the city, and I'm in there all the time. It's easy to get down to the beach. It's easy to get to the airport, usually 12, 15-minute rides. So yeah, I like convenience, John. And that's why I think we met in Hoboken, because I liked the convenience of
I'm a
living
very
there.
convenient person.
Yeah.
Maplewood's very pretty town too.
It's a pretty old town. And my house is
Very old architecture, right?
my house is over 120 years old.
Oh my goodness, big house, big.
You know what? Not super big. It's comfortable, nice, comfortable house, but it's an old house, which keeps me feeling young because I'm about half the age of my house. So
and,
not bad.
and are you the kind of guy who mows his own lawn and does his own stuff and all? I know
It's
you're
funny
a
you say
gardener.
that. We garden. My wife and I garden. I'm looking out the window at my vegetable garden, and
Nice.
I'm looking out at some of the flower beds, and we do it all ourselves. And not to sound like some old coot, but I often wonder. I often wonder if most of the people in my neighborhood now even know how to start a lawnmower, because most of them don't own one. So
No, I'm one of the few out in the Hamptons who does it, and
yeah.
I've decided I've become my father because
Do they think you're the help when they see you
yes,
out there?
absolutely, and
Yeah.
I propagate that. I pretend I am. So
Excellent. Yeah.
I'm looking for
I'm my wife's cheap labor in the
I'm
garden
looking
too.
for work. I'm looking for work, but I think they see my lawn and they don't want to hire me.
Oh, is that it?
I'll tell
It's
you,
a natural setting.
my dad used to do it, and we always say we become our fathers. And we have this little woods part. My dad was always in this little woods part, always in this woods. He was getting ticks and all that. And I don't know why. For some reason, I'm hanging out there too. And one day this truck came by, this is like maybe a couple months ago, and this guy, he's looking at me, and I get out, I go, can I help you? And he goes, oh, I thought you were John McCaffrey. I go, I am John McCaffrey. I go, I'm his son. He goes, oh yeah, I thought you were, because your dad was always in
No.
these woods. I was like, well, if he's here, he's dead now. I was like, I'm a little scared. So
Yeah, I mean, look, I grew up. I had a grandfather and my father both had flower gardens and vegetable gardens.
yeah,
Both sides of my family lived at one time, all immigrant grandparents all lived in what are now happening parts of Manhattan. But obviously, when they lived there in the teens and 20s and 30s, they were not happening
Mm,
because they were immigrants. And they both sides of the family moved to Staten Island to actually farm, subsistence farm during the Depression and World War II. And not like huge multiple acres, but probably a good acre or so of land that after World War II became houses. So to me, I grew up with a tomato garden. So did my wife, and vegetables and flowers. So I kind of keep that up. But even though I think I do a great job, I'm looking out the window what's growing right now. But it's a war against all the critters, and
oh
I.
yeah.
And I never try to figure out my cost per tomato with everything that goes into actually maintaining.
Emotional cost.
It is a big emotional cost, and then there's also as we get older too, the physical toll on your back
Bending
from
down.
uh,
But
from mulching for 2 weekends,
nothing tastes better when you grow it yourself. Nothing,
especially
and you
Jersey
grow up.
tomatoes. I have to say,
So Staten
you're out
Island.
there in a beautiful growing
I
area too,
am, I
though.
am, I am, I am, but you can't beat a Jersey tomato. Staten Island. Tell me about Staten Island. Did you go to high school there?
I went to high school. I was born and raised in Staten Island. So were my parents.
What part?
As I said, South Beach. I guess one of my earliest recollections was watching the Verrazano Bridge go up. And yeah,
And
yeah.
now you're over it. You went over it. You
I'm
migrated.
over it. And it's funny because, like I said, being born and raised in Staten Island, and once that bridge went up, we were invaded by Brooklynites. And now living in Maplewood, New Jersey, which is kind of a hip town,
Yeah.
I've been living through my second Brooklyn invasion in my lifetime. This time, all the hipsters who wanted to go suburban.
Maybe
So,
you're the common denominator, Hank. Maybe
yeah,
there's one.
I'm thriving. I'm thriving through two different Brooklyn invasions. But yeah, I went to Monsignor Farrell High School. I went to Catholic school
There you go.
right from first grade right through to the end of high school. And
Playing
what an
who?
I almost went to Villanova.
Oh,
Um, my actually
Villanova.
first choice was Notre Dame, and Villanova was second choice. But my high school guidance counselor, who was a priest, talked me out of it and talked me into applying to Cornell and going there. I got
The
accepted.
big red, the big red, the big
Yeah,
red.
yeah.
Notre Dame, in their infinite wisdom, turned me down. So I got into Villanova right at the end. I wouldn't get into Villanova now, but I
Well,
could.
I say that I wouldn't get into any of these schools right
Yeah,
now. So I mean, Slippery Rock might be a good option
I
for me
love
today. But
Cornell though. That's my territory up in Rochester,
I know you're a
up in
Rochester
Ithaca.
guy.
I am. I am. So you're an Ivy Leaguer, Hank.
Well, I guess in theory, but I don't know about in practice. And
Well, that's
but yeah,
okay. That's
but
okay.
I do go up that area a lot because of the wine business. I probably make a trip every year or two up to the Finger Lakes,
Beautiful,
and I've had
beautiful.
friends from Rochester area, but it is a beautiful area and it's a great place to visit, and they're making some really really good wine up there now.
They sure are. You can have a garbage plate and a Merlot up there. Have
I
you
go to
ever,
Tom Walls for a Wahlburger, right?
Hank? I want to fall to the ground now and curl up and cry. I love Tom Walls.
See,
I
I know Rochester. I can make
see
Rochester references.
you just won my heart forever. I already had it, but I love the burgers at Tom Walls. They're so
What was the
good.
secret sauce though? What was the secret
Oh my
sauce?
God, I don't know. You know what I like
Good
about
secret.
people need to know this. Why I like this burger. It's
Yeah.
bigger than the bun. It's flat and long. It hangs over like my toes in a sandal. It's so
Oh,
good. You ever
oh.
have Genesee beer up there? When you travel?
Genesee beer, and of course the beautiful version, Jenny Cream Ale,
The Green Death. We
the
call
Green
it the
Death.
Green
Yes.
Death.
I always remember, I'm not big on graffiti, but I always remember this graffiti from my freshman dorm. It was on a bathroom stall. Drinking Jenny was like making love in a canoe. It was it was fucking close to water.
Well, there
So,
goes my endorsement from Genesee. But
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
no, no, it's okay. They don't like me anymore.
Edit it out. Edit it
No,
out.
I will not. That stays
Okay.
in. Let's talk hoop because so I met Hank in Hoboken, where I lived as a young man, and we got my great fortune at the YMCA. I met Hank. We got paired up,
Yeah.
and we got on a team, and that team was awful. Except Hank and I, we were like Stockton Malone of the Y League.
Yeah.
Except
Yeah.
we didn't win. So
We didn't win, but I think what's most amusing about the team, these guys were all really good athletes that we played with. It
Yeah.
was one of my college roommates' brothers who played soccer at Syracuse, and his teammates. So these guys could run up and down the court. Not that it was that tough because the court in Hoboken was about that big. It
Yeah.
was the old school YMCA with the track around the top.
That's right. That's
You
right.
couldn't even shoot from the corners because you'd hit the bottom of the track. So the game was compressed even more. But so we played with these soccer players from Syracuse who were just having a great time running around laughing while everyone else is getting tired. But because they were soccer players, they couldn't catch a ball.
No, they were
Like
trying to kick it.
they were literally bouncing passes off their legs and off their chests in order to kind of
They were
corral
wearing
them.
cleats.
Yeah, they were, and waving banners a lot, and so they would inevitably throw the ball back to you and me, and so you and I were scoring like 30 points a
Oh,
game because
we were good.
somebody had to shoot.
Well, but I really loved that time of life.
Yeah,
And Hank was such a nice guy, and he was really good ball player because I know he still plays lefty. He could throw a hook. What I liked about Hank is the nicest guy. But he wanted to win. He played hard, and he wasn't
yeah,
afraid to get a little bit. He's a tough ball. So we were good, and then finally we roped in some of my guys from Villanova. We got a
yeah.
team together, and I think we finally won a championship or
We
something.
did. We had actually a really good team, and yeah, it was me and all you Villanova guys,
Yeah.
and
Yes. Yes.
but it was a really good team and was
It was
fun
a
to
fun.
play.
Yeah.
And it was kind of it's fun for me to play in Hoboken because for me it was very similar to being in Staten Island. There were a lot of people who grew up there on these teams, and then there were these invader teams of yuppies who were living in
That's right.
Hoboken in the
That's right.
late '80s, mid to late '80s, and at least some of the refs knew that even though I was part of the yuppie class at the time, I was also different, because I came from a similar kind of a community. And,
Right.
and of course, when you're playing at the Hoboken Y, you're playing like the Italian Americans who grew up there and a lot of Latin Americans. And,
That's right.
the guys would be going, a key, wanting the ball. And be like, I know
Me
what a key
llamo.
means.
¿Cómo se llama?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what a key means, and you're not getting the ball.
Yeah.
So,
No, it
but
was
yeah, so
it was
it was a
tough.
different. It was very different for me, but also very similar to where I had played
Right.
all through high school.
And
So,
it wasn't easy to win a championship. I mean, we were a good team, and there
yeah,
was good teams we beat. And then after we won, we would always go to church and we would kneel and pray and we would talk and sometimes we'd go. Maybe we went to a bar or two. I don't know. Maybe we
we would share our feelings about the game and about our
correct. Yes,
opponents and
that's
how
it.
we could be better people.
We that's beautifully said. We
Uh-huh.
shared our feelings very
Yes,
well.
yeah, yeah,
And so, and then we lost touch with each other, Hank and I. But then we connected again through sort of writing, my writing, and I found out
yeah.
Hank was writing, and I didn't surprise me that he was doing well in this world. And tell us about that. So tell us about what you're doing in terms of wine and writing and travel and culture. Give us the big picture.
Wow. So when I met you, I had hair, and I mean I still do, just
Beautiful,
not. Yeah,
beautiful, beautiful.
it's elsewhere now.
He was like Billy Ray Cyrus. He had a mullet,
I did not have a mullet, no,
uh,
but I had hair.
like
So,
Moses Malone.
but
Okay,
I also worked in a different field. I was doing executive search work at the time, and probably around early 2000s, my wife went back to work, had a couple of young kids, and I'd always wanted to do this wine thing. In fact, I was about to start it, um, trying to start a wine kind of business. And then my wife was pregnant with our first kid, and there goes the good idea. You put it on the back burner. So I dusted it off years later after I stopped recruiting, and he was doing a lot of stuff in the community. My wife went back to work in the city. I was doing a lot locally in the community, and trying to launch this business. Where I was really self-taught and self-networked. I've never worked for any entity in the wine industry,
hmm.
but had an interest in it. And I studied it the old school way by reading about it. It was pre-internet, pre-Google. So you read the magazines and you read the newsletters, and in fact, I just met for a couple of days ago was one famous winemaker, Randall Graham, who would mail out his newsletter quarterly. And the guy had a fabulously intelligent guy with a fabulous vocabulary and wit.
Mm,
And he kind of taught me that wine had wit and intelligence to it.
nice.
And And so it was great to actually be in a room, with him talking about his latest venture 2 days ago, and lots of other people who I find very
Mm,
important and influential along this journey I've been on building this business. And I also used to read Frank Pryor's column in the New York Times.
mm.
He's the one that started the New York Times wine column and did it for 30 years. He retired in 2004 and died in 2012. Eric Asimov, who does the column now, succeeded him in 2004. Actually wrote his eulogy. And the
Oh,
reason why this is all kind of interesting is, I read that column and I learned about people like Randall Graham, who I was, who I was with
mm,
2 days ago.
right.
And Frank Pryor lived a town over from me in South Orange, home of Seton Hall University.
There you
And his wife passed away last year, and the family was selling the home, and they know about my background in wine and running events and writing.
go.
So they invited me in and asked me if I wanted any of their father's books. And I'm like,
Oh,
sure. Thousands of books, including ones that he's written.
oh,
He also, for 5 years, in the middle of the wine writing, was the Paris correspondent for the New York Times. And this is a pretty cool story. You'll appreciate this, John, because he's a kind of a working class Irish American. Grew up in New
yeah.
Jersey. Was in the Coast Guard, GI Bill. Started working as a street reporter
Uh-huh.
for a New Jersey paper, and then for the Times. And because he could speak French and all, they asked him to write the column. And he said, only if I could do it as a storyteller, not as a reviewer
Oh, I like that.
or as a critic. So here are thousands of books, and I probably have 100 of them, some going back to the 1840s,
Wow.
and including books. He became good friends with Robert Caro, because
Oh,
he and Caro became buddies, and because Caro would spend with his wife every summer in Paris.
mm,
So what's been interesting about it is I have these books. I have some wine that was left over, and I've been reaching out to people who I knew from that era, who knew him or who he wrote about. People like Ruth Reichel and a friend of mine, Dan Barry, who writes for the Times, who's friends with Robert Caro, who's working as as an intermediary to get me to speak with Caro. Randall Graham 2 days ago, I said, Randall, I'd love to talk to you about Frank Pryor and wine writing, and
yeah,
how it's gone from one extreme to another. Now everything's pay for play, as we know.
that's right.
So it's been an interesting journey for me.
Amazing.
Again, basically, and bringing me back to how I initially started learning about this stuff, which was all on my own.
All on your own. No, I like that. It's funny when I talk to people who are doing what they want to do, which is not always easy,
No,
but
it's not.
but it's never just like there's always kind of an arc to it, and there's always a little bit of like following myself, and there's always a gratitude to it, which I love, and I can hear it from you. And there's this like around the way these people that kind of like that you're mentioning, like they helped me this and they gave me this,
Yeah,
and it's really a nice thing for people to know, because it's not easy to do what you like to do, but it's a journey, and you got to get help, and you know what I mean, but you got to follow your interests, and to make a life out of it is really nice, Hank, really nice.
well, and again, you understand this too, John. You said it's not easy to do, and you're right. It's not easy being small, right? Nobody's
Yeah,
giving you a weekly or monthly paycheck.
that's right.
You're kind of, and because of that, I think it's helped me to do different things. I mean, from running events to speaking and doing some consulting. I run a
Right.
monthly wine club.
Nice.
The writing to actually be paid to write is really a relatively new thing for me, only in the past 5 years or so. And even there, I have a lot of gratitude for the opportunities to do it, because it's all freelance. Again, nobody's paying me a salary.
That's right.
I, I'm fortunate to be at a stage in my life where I can actually accept what they're paying freelancers these days, because I
Right.
don't know how somebody young and starting out, or
It's tough.
having to take care of a family by themselves, can actually be a freelance writer today, unfortunately.
It's tough. It's tough, but
Yeah,
the beauty of it, it's sort of like, we started talking about tomatoes in the garden. You grew it yourself and all that. There's something so nice about, no one told you what to do, whatever. It's your idea to write, what
right.
you create. It wasn't in the world before you created it. Then all of a sudden you see your byline. That's a real heady thing to see that. And I did that. I
Yeah,
did that. I wrote
yeah.
that. I put that out into the world.
But
Uh,
here's the funny thing, because you do this, and you've written successfully and extensively, and more and better than I have. But I one of the funny things now, having written, I'll be have a conversation with somebody, and they'll refer to some great article they read, or they'll make a comment, say, yeah, I read this in this article, and I've said this on more than one occasion now to people. Yeah, I wrote that article. And they'd be like, really?
You're
And
like
I'm like,
magic.
yeah. The
Remember,
thing
remember?
is,
Yeah,
it's great to have your name on a byline, but most people don't read bylines.
that's right. That's right. Remember the movie Harry Met Sally, where they go
Yes.
on the double date, and then
Hmm.
Bruno Kirby is with someone else, and I think it's Carrie Fisher quotes an article, and he goes, "I wrote that." And he goes, "No one's ever quoted me," right? It's very good. Um, let me quiz you. Okay, what's the best wine right now? If you could have one glass of wine, what would you have?
You know, when I get asked this question, I often quote Diogenes, the father of cynicism.
Good drinker.
But he was an excellent drinker. He actually lived in an empty wine barrel on the streets of Athens. Yeah, and when Diogenes was asked what his favorite wine was, he said, "Wine that belongs to others." And so, but then again, that means I'd have to trust every other person's taste. I love sparkling wine, so
Sparkling.
I'll take a really good glass of sparkling wine, whether it's champagne or not. Just about over any other style of wine as
Okay.
a first choice. But like last night, I did a little like front lawn wine talk and tasting for my wine club. Had about 30 people on my front lawn. We
Nice.
opened probably like 15 bottles of wine,
Ooh.
all different styles from all over the place,
Uh-huh.
and just everyone having a little bit of taste and talking about it, and also I'm open about it. I like to try different stuff. I like a lot of the wines out by you. You're not far from Channing Daughters.
No, right down the corner.
Channing Daughters makes
That's
beautiful wine.
another
I love
place that doesn't let me in, but that's
it.
uh all right. I'm gonna
Okay,
make
sorry.
Kent Hank and I were talking before about our Knicks, the Knicks losing and all that. And then what kind of wine do you recommend after your favorite team loses in the playoffs? What would be a good consoling wine?
It's funny you say that because after elections, the last few election cycles, there are these memes going around like what do you pair with a like a dystopian future and all, and my answer is usually something in a large format.
A vat.
Yeah, and there's also like this mass-produced German Riesling called Relax. So,
Oh,
so
okay.
I think that's not that I drink it, but I think the concept of relaxing a little bit and
Yeah,
it's about finding balance, right, John? I'm not
it
saying
is.
we shouldn't take what goes on in the world seriously.
Oh, I know
I
you.
absolutely do. But if you go down that hole and that's all you do, you are missing out on a lot of the joys in life too.
Excellent.
And it's as important to live your life fully as it is to be mindful about how you're living it.
Well said. All right, last one for you because I love when Hank's still playing hoop, and he posts these great. I love he always posts a picture of sort of a wine and a thing that's like his after basketball painkiller. So
Painkillers,
what's
yeah.
the go-to wine for you after a good game of ball?
Uh, Large format. No, it's honestly, it's really just a sort. You play on, especially if you're playing at night, and you play till 10, 11 o'clock at night. You really need to wind down a bit. So
Hmm.
often it's really what's open on the counter. Uh,
Okay,
if I have a bottle open, if I don't have a bottle open, I made myself a gin and tonic. I think a couple of weeks ago for
there
it.
you go. There you
I'll
go.
have a beer, and if depending on just how physical it was, I might drop a cup of Aleve with that or a CBG tablet or
That's
something.
living, boy.
That
That's
is
living. A
living.
little
That is,
elite.
yeah.
Oh my God, a little
That's what I call wine pairing. Yeah,
that
yeah,
that's living.
yeah.
You don't soak a headband in wine though when you play or anything.
No, I don't do that. Even though I probably could use a headband. So
You're okay. You're okay.
yeah, yeah.
Well, listen, I could talk all day and a lot of fun, but people have come to this podcast to find out Hank Zona, who is the most famous person you barely met.
Wow.
Big story. Big question. You've met a lot of people.
I've met a lot of people, and as I told you, I was sort of giving this some thought. But since we're talking basketball, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it with basketball.
Good.
And we've got a theme going here. And you might have met one of the people I'm going to mention as well, and that is the movie director John Sayles.
Oh, he's a Hoboken guy.
John Sayles used to live in Hoboken when we lived in Hoboken, and he played
Yeah,
basketball. He played basketball at the Y.
a big guy, right? Big
Big,
guy.
big
Yes,
guy, big guy.
yeah.
He had the sideburns
He
going
had the mutton chops going
before
on.
before they were hot, before they were hip, and
Now they're. I
yeah,
remember him. I
yeah,
remember him. He wasn't the greatest ball player, but he was okay.
he was big and he was in shape, and
Yeah,
I'd watch
yeah,
him like throw guys around. So it was kind
yeah.
of I used to enjoy banging up against him because
Tell 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 people who John Sayles was.
oh, I have to tell. Oh, yeah, because John Sayles. I mean, I guess if you follow movies, you
Movie
know who John
director.
Sayles. He did Eight Men Out.
Yeah. Oh, I love that
He
movie.
yeah, I mean, which is one of the best baseball movies, and he actually is in it. I think he plays Ring Lardner
That's right.
in
That's
the
right.
movie, right?
John Cusack played the third baseman, I think, on that movie.
Yes,
He
yes.
didn't
I
play
mean,
Shoeless Joe.
Shoeless was who was Shoeless Joe? It wasn't Ray Liotta, but Ray
No,
Liotta was in.
Ray Liotta. You're
He was in the
mixing.
movie too, I think.
You're mixing and matching. That was
No,
Field
I
of
know he
Dreams.
was Shoeless Joe in the other movie, but I
Oh
thought
no,
he was
yeah, he was Shoeless Joe in Field of Dreams.
yeah. But I thought he was in this movie too. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, somebody
Might
was
have
in
been.
both movies.
He was very
Um,
concerned about getting typecast as Shoeless Joe, Ray
DB
Liotta.
Cooper, I think, was Shoeless Joe, wasn't
You
he?
are brilliant. You are
Yeah,
brilliant.
it was
I
DB
think
Cooper,
that's
who, by the way, is the narrator on History Channel's Mountain Men.
that's just extra for the audience. That's just
There you go. There you go.
that.
When it comes
I'm,
up on Jeopardy, when it comes
I'm
up on
so
Jeopardy,
happy you brought up John Sayles. I forgot that that guy played.
and his first movie was The Return of the Secaucus Seven. He did Matewan, which was a great historical
Yeah,
piece,
great,
and
great director.
actress Mary McDonnell, who I also met, was in that in a lot of his movies. And Mary McDonnell, who I've met a number of times because her brother and I were fraternity brothers at Cornell.
Very
And
nice.
Mary's like an Ithaca, New York native. So and Mary was in Dances with Wolves, right? I think
Right.
did she win the Academy Award? She might have won the Academy Award.
I don't know, but that's a good pull with John Sayles.
Yeah, John Sayles, and then I'll mention another basketball name,
Yeah.
and this one's a Hall of Famer, and as someone who I've actually played with a
Okay.
few times now,
Okay.
and it's Carol Blazejowski.
No, the great
Yeah,
woman player. Isn't she the first one to play?
yeah, she was one. She was, if she might have been the first to go into Hall of Fame or one of the first. You know, she was of that era where who was at UCLA? Ann Meyer,
Yeah.
right? Ann Meyer was fantastic, right? And it was before Cheryl Miller too.
Or Cheryl Miller.
Yeah, much before. But Carol was like All American at Montclair,
She
and
was
at
in
Montclair
Montclair.
University when it was Montclair State. She
Yeah.
lives in New Jersey, and one of my good friends, his son played at St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City with Carol's son. And sometimes
Wow.
Carol's son would come play with us, and then Carol has come to play with us sometimes too.
Is she
And
still
it's
good?
oh yeah, well you know people you always know when somebody knows how to play, right?
Yeah.
She just they just fundamentally so sound that you don't even necessarily have to
Right.
be an amazing physical talent, as opposed to me, where my game's gone from physical to mental to psychological. And but
You came down with it. You're
yeah, but
thinking
she is
about
so
your
well
mother.
versed, and just and you sit there, and for the guys who don't know, I would turn to them and say, "You're playing with a basketball Hall of Famer
Yeah,
today, by the
savant.
way."
Oh,
Yeah,
she
which is
was a trailblazer.
yeah,
Really.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
I
think she was actually she was also prominent in WNBA. Was she a
yeah.
commissioner at one time or
Yeah,
coach or
yeah.
something along right? And
She's before Becky Lieberman too, right?
yeah.
No,
Yeah,
she
so late 70s, I think she graduated from
that
Montclair. So
is
she's
such
probably in her early mid 60s now.
two unique people. I haven't heard that name in ever. Carol Blazkowski.
Yeah, and neither of them are as famous as some of the other guests'
Who
names that
cares?
they've
Who
dropped.
cares?
But yeah, but I wanted to keep it in the basketball vein
You
here. Yeah, so,
did. Oh my
yeah,
God. I am
yeah.
so happy you did. Um, and since I've been doing this podcast, it's like the stories are always better. The people you meet and all that. And like that's so interesting. She was a really important
Yeah,
person
yeah.
in the women's basketball
Yep.
movement in basketball. I mean,
Yeah.
and John Sayles is brilliant. And now
Yeah.
I remember him now. I see him with these big knee
Because
pads and all.
you barely met him too.
I
There you
barely
go.
met him.
Yeah.
You know why you probably barely met him more than me? You were
Well,
tall, and you were
yeah.
probably guarding him, and I
I,
think
I,
the elbows,
I was
right?
banging with him.
Yeah. See, I was outside. I was outside the fray.
I,
You
I
know.
I loved watching him play and like just toss guys around, because he wasn't really a great basketball player. And he literally was like tossing people around. He had guns on him. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was a big dude, and those mutton chops. It was
Yeah.
very unnerving.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you held your own. Hank was better. Hank was better.
Well,
Really two good ones. Two good ones. Um, I enjoy this. I'm going to have you back. I'm going to have you back
okay.
because I want to talk. I want to talk about more about writing. I'm kind of collecting writers, and we're going to do a writing series. So young people out there, Mr. Zona will be back. I'm going
Good.
to end it by a
And
little.
we'll talk about my lunch with Timothy Leary then next time.
Okay, and maybe we'll all hallucinate during that kind of thing.
I'll
Um,
flashback.
and I'm going to end this too with a little thank you. So I'm almost 1 year to the day where I got a new hip. I got a new left hip. And I was really nervous about it last year, maybe about this time. And out of the blue, Hank Zona writes me, John, call me. I got two of them. And right, Hank, right? And you
Yeah.
talked me off the ledge. And now I'm a year in and I'm never felt better. So I have to thank you. So for those out there, Hank, who might be of a certain age and going worried about this, what's your advice to them about hips and knees and all that kind of stuff?
My advice is, we think we manage our pain, but our pain ends up managing us, right? I mean, you were like putting your pants on the floor to slip a foot in to try to put them on.
That's
You were
right.
sleeping with a pillow between your knees.
That's right.
You were had to get up from a chair a certain way, or else your hips would lock. I know this because I talked to other people who've had the surgery, and whether it's a hip or your knees or a shoulder, whatever it may be, our pain manages us. So if
Yes.
when you reach that point, you have to be honest with yourself and get it taken care of. And both times, and I told you this, both times I had the surgery, I was actually in less pain the day after my surgery than I was the day before.
That,
And that wasn't because of the painkillers. It was really because I needed to have it done, and did it a lot quicker the second time because I learned the first time I almost waited too long,
right.
and I was really debilitated. I didn't play for basketball at that point for almost 2 years, and that was pretty significant.
It was
So
that's what you told me about the
yeah,
pain, and it was so wise, and it's the truth. And I didn't realize it until now, because I was not living my best life, and I am now. And look at that. So
yeah.
people out there, this man is very wise, very smart, good man. I'm glad you're my friend.
Same here.
I
I'm glad we found each other
And
again.
maybe one day we'll grace the court one more time together,
Yeah, yeah.
and maybe we'll get John Sayles if he's still. I don't know if he's still with us, but
My favorite point guard right there.
thank dog. So
Let me
sweet.
point to the
So
picture right
sweet.
there. There you are.
He's pointing to Stephen Marbury. Um, all right, to be
Hey,
to do again. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe to this podcast. I will put Hank Zona's web. You got a website, I'm sure, or something, and the link.
something out there. Yeah, usually my Instagram usually. Yeah.
I'll put his Instagram on the link so you can find him and follow all his fun things, and look for another episode. But thank you, my friend.
John, thank you. I hope I didn't come across as too nervous in front of your hundreds of thousands of viewers. So,
Well, not enough. I wish you
okay.
were more nervous. You're not nervous at all. All right.
Hey,
Adios.
I'm always happy to talk with you.
Okay. Bye
Have a
bye.
good rest of the day.